O'clock, I call this Sawyer County Public Safety / Economic Development Joint Meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Ron Buckholz.
Present.
Mark Helwig.
Yep.
Jeff Haney. Marshall Savitsky. Jim Evans. John Righeimer. Stacy Hessel. Tom Duffy. Steve Carrienan. Randy Newman. You have a quorum.
Okay, number 4, Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, number 5, Certification of Compliance with the Open Meetings Law. Madam Clerk?
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by Section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
The meeting agenda has been presented. Number 7, public comment. I'm not going to go through the whole public comment spiel. Everybody knows the rule. So we have Ms. Linda Zomer.
Good morning. Thank you, Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner and resident of the village of Birchwood. And I'd like to use my public comment 3 minutes to talk about the item number 8, your bug tussle discussion as it relates to the Public Safety Radio Network. I believe the Public Radio Safety Network issue should have been a joint collaboration between the Public Safety Committee and the Public Works Committee. Sawyer County seems to be lagging behind all other counties. As I understand it, Washburn County has at least 3 towers. During their budget negotiations, they've had $40,000 set aside for maintenance of their towers that they put forward into the next year. I don't understand why Sawyer County seems to be lagging, and I especially don't understand why economic development has further held up the progress that public safety seemed to have been making working with GenCom. What I do appreciate about this joint meeting, though, is I'd like to remind the members of the Economic Development and Extension Committee that probably 3 years ago when the county started awarding ARPA dollars towards the 4 or so providers, broadband providers in the county, I came up and made public comment on a number of occasions about including cell tower communications as part of the broadband effort, and I was pretty much poo-pooed. Well, the time for trying to incorporate cell towers and communications with emergency services and broadband, that has long passed. As a matter of fact, if I look back at the history of Economic Development Committee and previous boards that have served on that, it has probably done more harm than good towards communications in Sawyer County, starting with Jim Schlender, starting adversarial communications with CenturyLink, to lack of participation or following advice from UW Extension broadband specialists, to the current holdup of the radio situation. And also, if Bug Tussle's offer is to allow Sawyer County to co-locate at no cost, then I would hope that you would entertain that. But would like to also remind you all of some history going back to 2013. Something was slipped into the state budget that had to do with preempting local control on cell towers. Up until that point, any of the pending tower permits that the county received, there could have been negotiation to at least have a reduced cost co-location. But in 2013, the Republican legislature and Governor Walker then signed the bill that pretty much eliminates the power of local municipalities to work with vendors to create conditions for lower cost co-location. But that does not prevent Bug Tussle from offering to do that for free. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zilmer. All right, anyone else want to speak with public comment? Go ahead, Mr. Beining.
Thanks, Ron. Good morning, everybody. Steve Beining, 8225 Blaisdell Lake Road, Town of Draper. I have a couple of updates from the Town of Draper regarding mobile service, 911 service, and broadband service. The Oxbow Tower in the Town of Draper just east of the Flambeau River is now operational. That's a Verizon tower. You get 5 bars there at places we never had mobile service before, such as Snus Boulevard and Payne Farm Road. So if the concern there was 911 service in the town of Draper, that spot is being covered for citizens. The Gig Fire broadband project is currently in its winter sleep phase, I guess, waiting better weather. I guess the question I have comes around 911 service, and I hear at several meetings that people don't have that service, and that's incorrect. So lots of vehicles today have a distress mode on them. And if you have a mobile phone in your pocket, I'm going to show you this quick demo here. So I have an iPhone, and if I hold these 2 buttons together, look at that. There's an emergency mode right there. And that does not, it gets priority on a tower first. But after that, it will go up through satellite if it has to. Verizon does provide that service. So when we say we don't have 911 service for our citizens or our stakeholders, we do have 911 service. So I guess when we conflate these different technologies, there's just a lot of confusion around it. And I think it's because there's no plan. There's no broadband plan. We do have an emergency communication plan up there, which leads me into this agenda item. I don't see a plan offered to the public for viewing on Bug Tussle. So we really don't have a lot of transparency or visibility around this project plan at all regarding current state or what they're planning on doing. So I guess as a county board member, I'd feel a little slighted right now because you just don't have all the information you need to make a decision. So best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Bynum. All right, anyone else want to speak on public comment? All right, we'll go to number 8, Public Safety Radio Network, discussion with Bug Tussle and possible action. Andy, are you on there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I am messaging to Bug Tussle. I don't see them on the call right now, unless they're under a number I'm not familiar with. I expected them to be joining us today. We talked a couple days ago, so I'm not sure where they're at. We did have a joint. I'll just say we had a joint call with GenCom and Bug Tussle to go through the tower sites earlier this week. There's, Bug Tussle's got towers within the county already, and then some proposed towers. So we went through the potential sites and tower heights to get an idea of what the possibilities were. But that's as far as the conversation had. I expected them to be here today to have further discussion with both committees, but I do not know why they aren't here. Do you want to maybe move on to a couple other agenda items, and I'll see if I can get a hold of them?
Okay, that's one of the reasons why this joint meeting is on here, so we could hear from Bug Tussle. And I didn't see anything out there that showed what they're offering. Did they put anything out here for us or no?
No, we do not have any proposal or any plan from them. Expected to have some of that discussion today, but there is nothing proposed right now.
All right, we'll go on to the next one and until they're on there, because that's what this meeting is about too. So, all right, we'll go on to number 9, approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Savitsky and a second by Mr. Haney to approve the previous meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, Circuit Court. Marge? Oh, you're clerk of courts, but sorry, that's okay. You can give yours.
It's okay. It's all good. We can move on to me, huh? Judge Isham, I believe, has court. She's in court right now, and
Okay.
so she won't be able to be here today. Do you have any questions on my report?
I do not. The committee have any questions on Marge's report? All right. Thank you, Marge, for a good report. We have no one here that wants to speak in for the judge? Okay. All right, number 12, Sheriff's Department report.
I'll start off with the patrol report for Lieutenant Rip. For the month of December, we had 660 calls for service. Our traffic crashes are pretty consistent with the previous years. And to date, our traffic crashes are 353. We have had 3 fatalities in the county this year so far. And our traffic enforcement runs about 50 traffic stops a month here. So outside of that, I think everything else is laid out in detail. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions? It was a good report. Thanks, Sheriff. All right, number B, end of the year jail report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lieutenant Waller provided a report for the jail for December and the end of the year report. So the average daily population for the month of December was 60 inmates. This average included 11 females and 49 males. Our average probation incarceration is 18. Our average pre-sentence incarceration is 32, and our average sentenced inmate incarceration is 10. We currently have 2 on electronic monitor, and the current inmate unemployment rate at time of booking was 71%. For the year of 2024, we averaged 60 inmates. With that, 18 average for the females and 42 males. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
I just want to make a statement. So we have nobody awaiting court. We have no one awaiting court. That's got to be a first.
Waiting court?
Yeah. I mean, like, being in there in
That changes daily.
okay.
Okay. All right, any more questions? Okay, number C, Communications Center Emergency Management Report. Deputy Rapinski.
Morning, thank you. I'll start with emergency management first. I attended the regional meeting in Spooner in December, finished the grant closeouts for the fiscal year of '24. Our next LEPC meeting is in January. It'll be at Namakagon Transit, and we've started at Berkey planning as of November. Communications report. The joint power agreements to the townships and villages were mailed out last week. Waiting to receive those back. Also put in a modification to the PSAP grant for Next Gen 911 for fiscal year of '25 in hopes that an adjustment will be made to obtain proper equipment that would allow dispatchers to receive texts to 911, which would enhance our ability to receive 911 reports. Currently, we have a system called Rapid SOS. It takes 911 calls even if they are dropped and plots them exactly where they were made from. And even if that call was dropped, it will follow the vehicle or the person wherever that phone call was made until we can reach them. So if a dispatcher receives a 911 call and it plots on Rapid SOS, that plot will be, say, middle of State Highway 77. If they hang up, the dispatchers have the ability through that system to send a text message. If the phone calls won't go through, the dispatchers will make a phone call on a drop 911 call to make contact with that caller. And if they don't make contact, they try any feasible option to do so. They also have the ability to send a text message. And if that person opts in, they can respond. With the text to 911, that will come right through our 911 system. Instead of a phone call, people will be able to text 911. Text messages tend to get out faster and easier than a phone call due to service sometimes. So hopefully we'll be able to get that enhancement in our system. Currently, right now, the comm center from 1/1 of '24 to 1/1 of '25 has received 40,501 calls. That's phone calls, 911, administrative lines, non-emergency lines, 40,000 calls. Year to date, the Comm Center for Calls of Service has received 17,688. That was as of 12/26/24. Calls for service for December were down slightly from 2023 to 1086. In 2023, they're at 1216. That's all I have for my report.
Okay, anyone have any questions? You guys, if you got any questions, go ahead, feel free to ask. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, number E, code enforcement specialist.
Good morning. So for my report, as of December, we had a total of 17 dogs that came into the pound, with only 2 being reclaimed, so the rest were transferred to shelters. We did have a lot that were abandoned, so they had to stay with us for a while just in case and then go to the shelter. We had a lot of at-large animal calls. Typically, that is our most calls that we do get. Overall, for the year of 2024, January 2024 was our highest revenue with 596 dog licenses being sold, which is pretty typical. We are seeing that increase in December as it started at December 1st. So that is going up this year as well. Our highest call volume for animal control calls was in October, with at-large being the top one per the whole year, pretty much. And our highest admissions for in the pound was actually this month with the 17 that we had coming in. There were 96 animals admitted to the pound in 2024, with 54 of them being reclaimed out of those 96, so about 56% rate of being reclaimed. We do have the 2025 rabies clinic dates set. They will be Friday, April 4th in Winter, and then Saturday, April 5th in Hayward. And we do have a flyer that will be posting on our Facebook, posting kind of around Hayward, and then getting it out to like the town halls and villages and all that good stuff. Leading Edge will be doing the rabies vaccine and then the microchips, and then we'll also be selling our dog license there as well. I don't really have much for public health or zoning right now. I did get added to a new program for environmental health and that side, so I can help more with TRHs or tourist rooming houses. So we're getting me more involved with that, which will be nice. Otherwise, I think that's it.
Right. The animals that you're at the pound, are they mostly dogs or all dogs?
They're pretty much all dogs. The only time we get cats in the pound are if they're abandoned. Like we had 2 cats in our pound this month, mainly because it was 1 dog and 2 cats were abandoned by their owners. So then we got them, and then we have to hold on to them until we can either get in contact with the owner or the 7 days is up, and then they go to the Humane Society or whatever.
No more cat complaints, so.
No, not yet. So knock on wood.
All right. Cecil, go ahead.
Could you clarify, is that the city of Hayward Fire Hall or the town of Hayward Fire Hall?
Town of Hayward.
Okay, thank you.
And on the flyer too, when we get that distributed, it'll have the address and everything on it too. So,
All right, any questions? All right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, number 13, Child Support Department report. We have anyone here? Okay, she had any questions on what she put on there? All right, going to number 13, Emergency Services. Mr. Brummel, you're up.
Oh, good morning. So I want to start off with about 2 years ago, 18 months ago, we started a program to see if we can upgrade some of our EMTs to paramedics. We help them out with class. When this report was done, only one of them has passed, but now all 3 passed first-time passes for their paramedic. So they're all 3 licensed. They're all 3 in orientation right now, which after January, we should be fully staffed on the paramedic side. Leaves us openings with EMT sides, but I got a good chunk of EMTs that are willing to pick up the slack, especially part-timers, so we'll be able to fill that. With that being said, now that we're looking at the full roster being 90% full now, we should be able to run the two-person crew with the available EMTs that I have. And then we'll see if that's going to be starting to affect the budget as the year goes on. As you can see, if you go to that, after my runs, the unit run average time, runs and average, you see that unit run one goes out about 98% of the time. That's their call volume. And in order to bring that to where unit one and unit two are more even, we're gonna be doing that second crew, whether it's a paramedic crew or an advanced crew. A big chunk of our runs happen to be to like the nursing homes, and the assisted living and stuff that doesn't really need a lot of high acuity. So if we can utilize our BLS crew to do a lot more of those runs, it leaves our paramedic crew available for some of the higher acuity runs. And that's kind of the plan, is kind of what we're working on. The goal is to have both units, so all 3 units have a paramedic on them. But if that's not the case, then at least we can have a unit that can shuffle people from the nursing home or from the hospital back to the assisted living, and keeping a unit available for some of these car accidents or, strokes in the county. Because as we were looking, obviously, you can see the average run times in minutes, that even though unit 1 has majority of the calls, their run volume, their minute time is one of the lowest, and that's because they're doing a lot of those. But when they get tied up and I don't have a crew available, that's when we start seeing extended run times, especially when you're getting out towards Sand Lake or Round Lake. I hope in February, because I've been starting to staff that 2-people crew during the daytime for Monday through Saturdays. If that trend starts to go down and the averages start to be a little bit better, then we can start talking about, utilizing the ambulance in different ways or different configurations. I've been talking with Andy about them. I just need a little more data when we start implementing my plan here. The other thing I brought up is that just breakdown of our 50th busiest days is kind of how I try to plan to make sure that we have full crews on during what months are the busiest. Obviously, if you can look, you're going to see August, September is going to be our 2 busiest months. And an average run for for unit 1, an average run from beginning to end is about 2 hours if you count the paperwork and everything. And the average run time for Ojibwa is 3 hours to 4 hours counting the paperwork and stuff. So as the run volumes get more, you can kind of add up in your head, like on a 14 run day, how many hours the EMTs are actually putting in per call. So, and if you guys have any questions on that, I'd be glad to answer.
So where's this Excellent ambulance at now? What's going on with that?
So the Excellent ambulance was going down to Excellent. I got the permission from Dave last week, and we found an oil leak on it. So when the Timber Ford fixes the oil leak on it, it's gonna be going down there. So.
And we're gonna utilize that, eh?
I'm gonna utilize it. I'm gonna be having meetings with them. It's going to be most likely paged out as like Unit 7 or Unit 5. I'm still kind of working with Nicole, how we can make sure that people aren't confused when it gets paged out. And I got, after the Fire Association meeting, I want to get a meeting with Dave Finesse down there and just find out what EMTs he has on the rosters and see if I can talk them in. If they're not working currently with me, to get signed up with Sawyer County. But I do have I have 2 paramedics that live down in that area and one EMT that I know of. And then there's 2 more possibilities, so we should be able to at least get a crew,
So that would be a quicker response time for Sand Lake area.
Yep.
From Excellent than it would be from Ojibwa.
Well, the whole goal is like if we always like data, right? So to utilize the data when we get sent out there, I think Sand Lake, that side of Sand Lake, it'll be faster. Obviously the north side is gonna be unit 1, unit 2 will probably be a little quicker because it's straighter shot. But it also gets us over, because it's 48 straight shot there, so you got F and all that on that side too.
Right.
So I think as we look at things and how things get paged out, once we start seeing how I can incorporate it, and then it'll also make us have a better understanding of that call area and the volumes and the actual run times. So maybe I'll say next year this time we talk about if we're still concerned about the run times on that stuff, we start talking about, where are we going to move stations? Are we going to start putting having full-time crews in other places? But, with what I'm doing now and with the ambulance heading down to Exlin, I think that's going to be a good starting point. So.
There's, in future, putting it back in Stone Lake?
Well, we have a brand new we were gonna decommission an ambulance, but I have a brand new ambulance that was told was gonna be here in December. But every time that someone says, I give it another 3 months. So between December and whenever it gets here, I'll have a brand new ambulance. And we were gonna decommission one of the older ambulances, but when I mean older, they're not older like they used to be older. They're still 2018s, 2017s, 2018s. So I was going to use the one I was going to decommission, which is small enough to sit in the Stone Lake Ambulance Hall. And we were just going to put that one there and then restock everything. I was also, Andy and I were talking about kind of setting up like a chain of command stuff so we can make sure, because the biggest problem that we used to have is just getting to if they didn't run for a while, is just getting to them, making sure they're fully stocked and everything and keeping them in rotation. So I think what we're doing right now, and we're going in the right direction. And I think this time next year, I think we'll be talking about 3 minutes to 5 minute differences between the run times from now till next year, which is my plan. The other thing that's been actually going really good is that I've been having some of my EMTs that are instructors going out to the communities and teaching CPR, stop the bleed, the AEDs. We got a lot more AEDs out there. And this is the first year that I know of. So I give out little tokens for CPR saves. Whenever one of my EMTs or something, they do a CPR save, they get a little pin. I ran out this year. It's the first year I've ever done that. And we've had a lot of good success with what Jim Onerheim and Logan and them and my EMRs that have been out in the community have been doing with everybody. So I really do think AEDs save lives, and if we can kind of push these places out there to have AEDs, because we've had 6 AED saves. That's community members getting an AED onto a person, and then having a positive outcome. And I've actually seen that throughout more than just this area, and we can't be on scene immediately, right? Even if you're way out, anywhere, if you don't know CPR and you don't know anything, but you have access to an AED, 90% of the time what happens is the person goes into some type of dysrhythmia that is easily reversible with that shock. Doesn't mean it saves the person, but at least it gives that person time for first responders and EMS to get out there, which increases our chances of a save. So it's a huge thing to me. I appreciate what the community's been doing. I appreciate what my EMS have been doing with getting out the community. And I think we're doing really, really good on the emergency side. So.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Elway.
Well, first of all, it sounds like you're doing a really good job. I just want to ask, do you have EMTs in Stone Lake?
I have in the Sand Lake, Stone Lake area, I only have one right now that I know of. right? I don't know where everybody in my staff lives, but Bill Weimer is a paramedic, but he lives in Washburn County part, but I mean, right near the Stone Lake Garage. I have been trying to get people with all these classes that have been going on. I've been trying to get people, I put a lot of money into the training budget, so there's EMTs that want, people who want to become EMTs. We've been helping them out. I've been just kind of making a caveat that I would like you to be sponsored by a fire department. You know, that way they can become EMRs in that fire department. And if they become EMRs in that fire department, then I can utilize them as EMTs in that area. So
But they'd have to be a fire,
they have to be a firefighter. I mean, that is the one
they
thing,
may
but
not want to do that.
they might not. If they want to become EMTs, we still have part-time, you know, a lot of part-time availability, and I'll still sign them up under that. It's just a kind of a little push that I'm trying to give to the fire departments to help build them up and then help build myself up at the same time. You know, but I still do offer people the EMT class as long as you sign up as a part-time, you know, minimum part-time. We do have some full-time openings that if people are interested, but now that my 3 medics have gone up, I sent out an email to the staff, my internal staff, to see if any part-timers wanted to go up, but if there's people in the community, you know, that want to become an EMT and they're willing to spend a couple of years with me, then they can get their class paid for.
And one more thing, remember, run times will always be an issue.
It will never not be an issue. Man, when I was putting this together, the actual, and I know without violating any rules, the actual longest run time that we had for any of the calls was actually by Ranger Station Road.
That's right out here.
Yeah, that was the longest run time we had.
And why is that?
And that's because Unit 3 had to come from Ladysmith because Unit 1 was in Spider Lake. And we were short-staffed that day. So Unit 3 was dropped off a patient in Ladysmith and had to run all the way to Ranger Station Road. We did ask for an intercept that day, but the unit, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, they were busy at the time. So.
All right. Go ahead.
Buck Tussle is on the line now.
All right. So do we have any more questions for Mr. Prem? All right, thank you, John. All right, Buck Tussle. Talk to the committee, please.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I thought that Mitch would be on to explain the project, but I found out that he got called away for an executive management meeting. So again, my apologies. But I'm talking with Andy still this week, I guess it was. But yes, we are more than happy to discuss doing towers. I think the important part that we need to understand from the committee is there a willingness to go higher than what you have for right now and have a taller tower, which therefore provides more coverage, as well as allows for more equipment to go on a tower, which therefore makes the tower more financially viable for Buck Tussle. In addition, so we'll need a waiver, I'm assuming, regarding that. And I want to make sure that the only waivers we need are from the county and that we don't need them from the townships as well. Is that something that's okay with the committee and the board?
What about these heights? That's never been an issue before.
Well, what happens is when you have higher heights, that allows your equipment to go over longer distances and be a better network. If you talk with your public safety folks, that means fewer towers, which means a lower cost.
So
I'm just confused because I don't remember that ever being the fire's the height of the tower. It's never been a problem with us. So I don't know why that's being brought up now. But what is your plan? Please.
I'm sorry, Andy, were you about to say something or no?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the towers came up in the last month when talking with Bug Tussle. The coverage maps that you've seen that GenCom put together for how much of the county was going to be covered had some gaps in the east to southeast portion. They indicated their coverage maps were based on equipment being mounted at about 150 feet of height on a 200 to 250 foot tower. And then if the towers were to go to 300 feet, some of those coverage gaps would go away. So that's why it came up. The county zoning ordinance allows a 300-foot tower, but it has to be, there's some conditions there that we'd have to work through. But one of those conditions is that it would co-locate equipment on it for fewer towers overall. So that's where it came up from. And that's what Bug Tussle asked about, going with a 300-foot tower so that they could, because when the co-location on towers, the cell phone equipment's going to go at the top of the tower, and then the public safety equipment's going to go down 50 feet from that. And that's why they inquired about the taller towers. As far as Mr. Helbig's question about plan, I don't know if Scott can offer anything. We don't have a plan. We've talked about 3 tower sites and 2 in the south and 1 in the east to get the same coverage and the same locations that GenCom had proposed the towers.
Yeah, we're trying to work with Gen Con to therefore put together a plan to put forward to you folks, so that way you can look at it, ask questions, and then decide whether you want to proceed.
So what about this tower that's already up in the Oxbow area that's Verizon? Would we be able to utilize that, Andy, or no? We should be able to. I don't know what the cost would be, I guess, but.
Yeah, I don't believe that's a Bug Tussle tower. I mean, potentially we could use it. We'd have to talk to the vendor or the owner and see what the cost would be to locate on the tower. Along those lines, GenCom has put together a list. They have a list of all the towers in the county, and that's what they use to put together their coverage map. So they have, beyond, this is outside of Bug Tussle, GenCom has identified towers that we should have conversations with if we want to use existing towers owned by others to lease space on.
So what is the cost that Bug Tussle is telling us that's going to cost us to do this? I haven't heard any of that.
They have not provided us with any numbers or terms of what it would look like to be on their towers.
As for the cost to co-locate on our towers, from a funding standpoint, as we usually do, that I believe that would be you'd co-locate, and that would just be part of the agreement to begin with. It wouldn't be a rental situation.
Go ahead, Mr. Regan.
Aren't we keep asking for cost, but aren't we somewhat or completely going back to the original proposal to some degree? The credit capacity and all that. I mean,
yeah,
I don't have that in front of me, but I mean, Andy, do you have that? I mean, isn't that the cost?
That was roughly, if I remember correctly, Andy, was that 11 or was that 16?
It was 16 was the original proposal, and then there was an option for at the end, they proposed an option for 10 million.
10 million, yeah, sorry.
Which was fewer towers.
And that's not, I mean, it all depends how you decide or define cost, right? I mean, on one hand, that is the credit capacity that they would be leaning on. But the cost was like less than like $1 million or something. Then
yeah, there would. You are correct, Supervisor, in the respect that. So let's say it was for 16 or for 10, you're going to take $1.5 million off of that, because that is for the capital interest fund, issuing costs and the like. So towards the project, then you're talking closer to 8.5 or 14, depending on which option you're going for.
Thank you. Mr. Savitsky, but
We ever collaborate with LCO to use their tower at the WOJB site, or are we gonna have to build a tower on the tribal area?
We've been talking with WOJB. That's assumed right now as part of the network that we will be able to reach an agreement with WOJB to use that tower. Kind of the same situation. We've communicated with them continuously. There is space on the tower, but they have not offered us any terms as to what, how long of a lease, how much the cost would be to go on the tower. As of last month, they were still doing some assessment on their own equipment to see if they were going to have to move their own equipment or upgrade it before they would give me a commitment on where we could locate on that tower. But just to go back to the coverage maps we have are based on using the WOJB tower. That covers a big section in the middle of the county.
Hey, Andy,
Yep.
what all we had at one time some PowerPoint presentation given to us with where the locations of the towers would be and everything. And, I thought that was a plan that was between Bug Tussle and the other group there. What happened there? Because, we don't want them to bring whole nother plan together and wait another month to work on this and then have to bring us all together again. What's going on there?
Largely, it's still the same proposal, or not proposal from a financial standpoint, but from a coverage standpoint. So we're still looking at those same tower locations. So GenCom had a set of towers locations they had identified, and then Bug Tussle had their towers where they were going to put them. And so there's been some adjustment, like moving things down the road, but we're still looking at towers based on those same PowerPoints that you saw in the same locations.
So in the last couple of months, those two entities have not gotten together and then figured out a plan so we can move forward?
The first meeting we had with them was earlier this week to get them back together to talk about it. We turned down the Bug Tussle, using them as an option in September. And then in October, we had just going back to using just GenCom to build towers. That did not get approval. So then the discussion was about going back to Bug Tussle. And that's led us to today. In the last couple of months, there's been no more work between Bug Tussle or GenCom.
Okay, so what do we have to do to go forward?
Either, I think, two options. If you want to get Bug Tussle to put together a proposal, I had asked, and I guess what I was looking for was a new proposal. I had been looking for something quicker, going back to the $10 million or $16 million option. Probably pushes things out from a build standpoint a little further. I mean, to actually get towers up, put fiber in the ground, that's a longer timeline. I was hoping there was a quicker option where we could use existing towers so we could start building this network this spring. But at this point, we don't have that proposal from Bug Tussle.
Andy or Bug Tussle, at our economic development meeting, we talked about the priorities and maybe doing them, I'm just paraphrasing here from my memory, in stages. First and foremost was the emergency services. In priority of order was emergency services, cellular coverage, and then the fiber for the broadband. I was under the impression that we could get moving relatively quickly on the emergency services, maybe even the cellular, and then the broadband would come along, thereafter, being that it's not a higher priority. Is that something we can do so we can get moving quickly, or something here that I don't understand, that if Bug Tussle is involved, it gets moved out? I was unaware of that. I thought it was just a matter of us deciding to go forward on the 10 million, 16 million. We're right back where we were in October or whatever that was, and we get moving.
I guess the question that I have for the board, if I may, is it is, January now. So even if we do January, February, we're probably wouldn't start till the ground starts to thaw anyways. So I think the bigger thing is just that we make sure that the plan or the potential plan that is approved by, February, so that way things can get put together for March and April. Or is there, I guess I'm a little confused as to the timeline. Is the board thinking that we would be starting some type of work in January?
I don't know, that's, I guess not, if it's for frozen, I understand that. How much different is this plan gonna be that we're talking about? Do we even need a new plan, or we just go back and, is it really gonna change from the initial plan?
Supervisor, it wouldn't change much. I think it would depend, first of all, on whether whether you are wanting more the 16 or the 10, and again, the tower heights, and so therefore where the placement would be, and therefore making sure that we could get the coverage that Sawyer needs from a safety standpoint.
So maybe we need to be refreshed upon what 16 million gets us versus 10, and I guess come to some decision on the 150 versus 300 feet. It sounds like that would be 300 would give you better coverage and less money, so I like that sound of that. And if that's just a zoning issue with the county, we don't have to rely on the towns, then that's probably a simple answer. So that's really not a hard decision either. So I guess it's a matter of understanding 10 million versus 16 million, how much better the coverage is. Because I kind of sense that the 16 versus 10 was kind of a psychological thing anyways, just sounded better. 10 million versus 16, but.
Yeah, well, let me say something here about, I know I thought we understood that if we went with the 10 million with Bug Tussle, the coverage wouldn't be as great as if we went with the 16 million. Did I not hear that before? I believe I did.
I would assume that with 16 million was more towers. Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be more towers, so therefore the coverage would be better. But maybe if we change the heights, that would change the calculus as well.
Sir, does that mean that we need to know whether that height is gonna make a difference before we decide on the 16 or the 10?
If I'm going to be completely honest, well, of course I'm going to be completely honest with you. Being a former county administrator myself, I think you do want to know the difference, because if you have fewer towers but they're taller, then the cost would be less and the coverage would more than, and as opposed to having lower towers where you need more to get the same type of coverage. So yeah, I would think that you would want to have that information. But
Okay, so
I defer to Andy.
So to get this going forward, I don't want to interrupt. I'm sorry about that. I propose that GenCom and Bug Tussle get together, figure out the tower heights and how much it's going to cost, and then we get back together in February, make a decision. Right, exactly. So that, like you said, we can get going in make a decision. Then, of course, we're not going to do any digging in February. So, but you understand?
Because actually, we're not knowing what we're really getting for the money.
Yeah, without them deciding.
If we know this, because the tower height is new information.
Right. Yes.
So if that gives us better coverage, I mean, maybe we can get
12.
Yeah, maybe it's something between 10 and 16, and then that's what we have to make a vote on.
Ms. Sassy?
So my concern is that each meeting that we've had, something new has been brought to the table. And so it's really frustrating to make a decision without the complete facts. But again, going back to Mr. Ringheimer, we had talked about, we're not holding it up at economic development. We had that priorities list, making sure that our law enforcement and emergency services had their tools. So now it seems like it's just, a miscommunication or something with Bug Tussle, that they're not understanding our needs for our county, and then keep adding something to each meeting that we go to. So the only people holding up this project are Bug Tussle.
So,
I would say that that's good, as this is good information, the height of the tower. That brings the, I mean, I wish we would have known about it months ago,
right.
but for whatever reason we didn't, but now we know that. That's actually good news. So,
Do we still have the option to build our own towers at 300 feet tall and rent it out to cell phone companies and own them ourselves, or is that option out the door?
you want to be in the business of that?
I don't know, not really, but would it speed it up?
Oh, I don't think our decision,
That system was a goal, Marshall, before, I don't know how Bug Tussle ever got in it, because this committee approved GenCom, and it was a unanimous vote to send it on to the county board, and then all of a sudden Bug Tussle gets involved, and it all went backwards. Now it keeps going on and on and on and on. We're not getting anywhere.
well, had we made that decision when we did, I'm not sure they would have broke ground until April anyway. So I think it's the weather that so if we make the decision by February, we're fine. I'm ready to go right now on a decision if the board wants, but I don't know why it hurts to wait till, I guess, February to get that number to understand where the credit capacity needs to be. Sounds like it needs to be at a minimum 10 and at a max would be 16, but with the height of the tower, maybe it's something less than that, then we move forward. But if the board here is anxious and everybody wants to get going, let's go.
Okay, Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, I'm wondering if on any of these plans, is the entire county covered, or are there still spots where it's not covered? In other words, if we don't cover the
My
whole county,
understanding is it's supposed to be the whole county's covered, even the southeastern.
it is covered. So,
Yes.
My understanding. Right?
My understanding is that 10 million or even 16 million is a very, very small portion of our total borrowing capacity. Isn't that the case, Andy?
Yes. Yeah, we've got, I can't cite the number, but 250 million, I think, is our capacity.
Do
Around
we
that
have
area.
any idea on what other counties who are doing business with Bug Tussle, what they're doing in terms of borrowing capacity? Do we know if it's similar to what we would be?
Well, in general, we're using a very small portion of our borrowing capacity. I would expect, it depends where the county, I mean, as a proportion of their total borrowing capacity, it's going to be similar in other counties.
Mhm.
Overall, they might be using more of their borrowing capacity just because if they've had any recent, number of the counties have building projects as well, new highway departments or courthouses larger than what we did. We traditionally have a very low utilization of our borrowing capacity relative to other counties.
So John, you're the chair, correct? So Ron, you're the chair. How about if we make a decision on having another meeting prior or not between now and
Well, I'm glad to do,
February?
I'm glad to do that. This is a question / maybe motion. I mean, could we make a motion to move forward with the Bug Tussle, who's going to work with GenCom, knowing that they're going to study the height and that, I mean, Steve makes a good point, whether it be, it's big business, right? Whether it be 10 million or 16 million, maybe we're just kind of, discussing things that are unnecessary. So the motion would be to go forward, not to exceed 16 million in the credit capacity, knowing that it's gonna be a minimum of 10. And maybe they come back with something to say, hey, we only need, 14. Whatever it is, somewhere between that. That way everybody be happy. We know we're going forward. Because that's the only thing I think we're waiting on would be the height, but so what? We probably still want to go forward.
Right, yes.
We want to go forward. I mean, we've been dragging this out long enough. We need to get going more on it. And I agree with you, let's see what, make that motion to go with Bug Tussle or whatever to see their plans. Let's do it. And then if we have to set up another joint meeting, Andy, I don't see nothing wrong with that. Do you?
No, I don't see anything wrong with that. The only thing I would ask is, and maybe that's part of the motion that's being made, is we want Bug Tussle to reaffirm or provide a current proposal, whether it's 10 or 16 million. And the only reason I bring that up as part of their proposal before was the fixed wireless and providing internet, which was not which is not one of our priorities, but it's part of their business plan. And part of that landscape has changed because of the BEAD funding that's going out now. So I think we just want them to provide us a fresh proposal based on the current landscape and how that fits into their business plan.
How quick can Bug Tussle get us something to look at so we can get rolling on this?
Well, we can try to do that. I'd like to touch base. I think Andy touched on it. Is for us, and again, part of what had happened for us is that when the county had decided not to move forward with our proposal, then we took our time and efforts into other projects, and now with the BEAD money coming in, we've been spending a lot of time there. So when it was this fall and the board and the county had decided they were not interested in going forth with the project, then we therefore shifted our attention and our efforts towards counties that were wanting to do projects. So I apologize that if you think that we've been trying to stall this, that is not the case. Then Sawyer County reached back out to us about trying to do a project which is primarily towers for your public safety communications, and we're more than willing to look at that and trying to put something together. As for the timing, with the weather getting colder and us trying to finish up with our current projects till the end of the year, we were doing that. And now that it's January, February, yes, again, we're more than willing to have those conversations with Sawyer County, but I am going to gently push back in that it's not that we've been trying to stall, it's that Sawyer County had indicated at the start they weren't interested, and therefore we were focusing our efforts in other places and with other counties. There was one other question that a supervisor had as to bonding amounts. In 2024, Price County approved 15 million, Washera approved 11. In 23, Fond du Lac approved 10, Oneida approved 24, Outagamie approved 24. In 2022, Jefferson County approved 20 million, Green Lake 10 million, Wood County 11 million. So that 10 to 15 is not uncommon at all.
You guys got something?
So when did they get that proposal ready, I guess? So when was Bug Tussle and Gen Com able to get that proposal ready? Can we meet again before the February county board meeting, or what's the timeline, I guess?
When is your February board meeting?
The third Thursday of February?
Okay. I would hope so. I would think so. Again, that's where I know GenCon and Mitch would have to be talking, but I don't see why it couldn't be turned around rather quick, because the project would probably be very similar to what we had proposed to you folks back in the fall.
I have a question about the LCO tower. Does this 10 to 15 million, is that using LCO's tower or is that not using LCO's tower?
That's the price. The money is not going towards the LCO tower, but the overall coverage and proposal does assume that we will be using the WOJB tower as part of the project. But that's a separate deal outside of that 10 to 15 million, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Andy, I recall that was the idea, that was plan A, and if for some reason we couldn't get it done, there seemed to be like an alternative route that maybe was slightly less coverage, but seemed to be minimal. Am I remembering correctly?
You are. Potentially one of the other tower site, originally Bug Tussle, we're talking about three tower sites with them, but that $16 million project included 5 tower sites. So the 2 other tower sites we weren't going to use a Bug Tussle could cover some of that, but yeah, we'd have to find another in the northeast part of the county. We'd have to find other tower sites in the kind of the west side of the county, 1 or 2 to make up for losing the WOJB site. not using it.
And WJBOE's incentive to want to do that would be they get payment or they get better coverage, or what's their incentive?
That's the pitch to us, pitch to them is that they're part of, it's the tribe owns the tower to the radio station. They're part of our community. They would get better service for their members as well. They use our radio network.
So do we need a motion to go on with this from this committees? Andy?
Yeah, I think somebody had started to make a motion that wanted this to be a proposal and to meet as a joint committee again.
So is that Marsh's, no, Mark's motion. Who made the motion? I'll second it. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to go forth with Bug Tussle's review for communication towers.
With
Revised proposal with GenCom. So you got that, Lynn?
Yes, what I have is a motion was made by Mr. Helwig, second by Mr. Righeimer, to have Bug Tussle work with GenCom, to provide a proposal not to exceed $16 million in borrowing capacity and presented at the February meeting.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Sess.
The February meeting of this joint committee or the full board?
Should be joint committee, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then Andy, when you do that, just do one agenda.
Okay.
So, okay. Let's do a roll call vote. I want to make sure. So, Lynn?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Number 15, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council update. Andy?
I don't have much different than I gave at the board meeting last month. Everything's going well. CAD grant was approved for this upcoming year. The diversion deflection programs are at capacity, and now they're moving into the juvenile justice area with grant dollars. Human Services has received, and then we do have Judge Smith from LCO and Julia Lyons will be attending the NACO CJCC peer exchange for us next month. Like I mentioned, we submitted our name and we're one of 8 that have been selected to participate in the peer exchange. I thought it was a good opportunity for the county. The CJCC has matured in what they're doing to start sharing and also learning about next steps that we'll have to take as that continues to evolve and grow for us.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Andy? All right, number 16, board appointed committees updates. Anyone have anything they want to share? All right, number 17 would be future agenda items. I guess the only thing, Lynn, is keeping us updated on this Bug Tussle stuff. And when we get all that, then setting up a joint meeting with public safety and economic development. All right, number 18, correspondence reports from conferences and meetings. If not, number 19, I want to thank everybody. We're adjourned.